This is my 2003 Honda Rincon. I've had it for a few years, but I haven't really used it that much. Matter of fact, I had to buy a new battery for it 6 months ago because the thing was completely dead. I tried starting it then, nothing. It would turn over, but most likely what it is, there's old gas in the system, whether it be in the fuel line or the carburetor, not sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear it apart, see what I can do to fix it. More than anything, I hope I help people that own a Honda, but more than anything else, hey, no matter what you start with, you can work with it. You have one hand, you can still work on motorcycles. We're going to have a lot of fun. First thing I'm going to do though is air up these tires, move this thing over there, and take this tarp off. You don't need to see that. The first thing you want to do when you are diagnosing, even if you think it's a gas problem, take 2 seconds and take out the spark plug and see if it's getting a spark. Those of you with a keen eye may notice that this is a vintage Craftsman. This is my dad's, and whenever I get a chance, he passed away a few years ago, whenever I get the chance to pop these out, I do. It reminds me when I was 16 years old and we'd work on some cars together. It was a lot of fun, and you miss those days when they're gone. So whenever you can try to remember those great days, you do whatever you can, and for me, that includes using his old tools, which even this one is one of his old spinners. So I didn't have a rubber grommet in there, so for me to get the spark plug out, handy little thing here, handy, the one-handed guy says handy. But let's put this on, and I don't know whether you're going to be able to catch if this thing has a spark or not, but I certainly will be able to do that. Yeah, there's no way you're going to be able to see that, but there is a spark. So next thing to do is check to see if there's any blockage in the fuel line or the carburetor. Well, it looks like from where I want to get into, which is pretty much this line right here, where it goes into the carburetor from the gas tank, I'm going to at least have to take off this panel. So we got a 10 mil here. So let's take that off first. And got a few other pins holding it in, the plastic pins. Should have some needle nose pliers would definitely help in this as well. But you can get an idea. Okay, so that came off. I get a container for that. I think I have a couple more, probably in here. What am I? And 2 more here. One thing I did notice as I started to take this apart, I got all the ones that I could see, the push pins, the 10 mil bolt, got them out. One thing I noticed as I was trying to pull this, it was binding here, and that's because on the other side here is another pin. So I'm going to get that out. Don't really need to watch. Okay, one more just to make it even more fun. There's one under here. These obviously have clips. This black part has a clip into this red, but there's another push pin under here. So let's see what I can do about getting that out. As you can tell, I can use my stump to move things out of the way. And there it is. Actually, there's a couple more. If you can see my hands, I'm not sure if you can. I'm going to take my phone off here and point. There are a couple more back here. I'm not sure if I want to take those off. I should be able to get to where I want to right now. In here, the carburetor. I'm going to take the fuel line off in just a second. I'm going to turn the fuel selector to off. Take the fuel line off, and then turn it on to see whether gas will come out of the gas tank. If so, then the problem's going to be in here. If not, there could be an inline filter or something stuck in here. Okay, I got the line out. It wasn't that difficult. Little spring clip. Got the needle nose pliers. Really just pulled right out without an issue. As you can see, I've already tested it. You turn on the petcock, and there comes the gas. And by the way, that gas smells terrible. So I have a really good feeling that this carburetor is just gunked out. One thing I do want to pass along, one little tip, something that I have found through, you say trial and error, this is just error. You take the time and you pull out your fuel line. Well, at times your petcock could be also not good, meaning that it doesn't shut all the way. So you take the time and effort to pull out the fuel line, and it continues. It might pour out immediately and you have it on off, or you may turn it a few times and you can't get it to turn off. Well, one thing I always do is bring a few bolts with me. That way I can just screw the bolt into the end here, and now you go to turn it on and it's not going to leak. In looking at the way the carburetor is put together on here, there's a lot of these hoses and things, but it doesn't look that difficult to take out, and I don't think I'm going to have to take out this box. I thought I would, and I still may have to, but you can see how loose that is right now. So I really do think if I take out some of those hoses, I will, and the throttle, I will be able to take this off. Another thing too, down at the bottom there, I don't know how well, I certainly can't point with no hands, but it looks like there is like an overflow valve right here, and I did play with it, pushed it and pulled it in. No gas was coming out. So for the most part, I know no gas was getting down to the bowl of this carburetor. So most likely the gunk has affected the float and the needle valve. This is connected to the bottom of the carburetor. So this knob has to come off, and it looks like it comes off with a 7mm. It has a 7mm head on that bolt. Looks like it just comes off pretty easy, but I did want to point that out. I didn't want to not show people that are trying to do some DIY fixing themselves. Okay, I got the carb out, which was fun. There was a couple other things I didn't show in video, like getting this electrical circuit out, but that's pretty self-explanatory if you just follow it. So what I want to concentrate on here is just these 4 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're Phillips head. Another one of the old Craftsman my dad used to have. Shout out to Dad. And I just want to take this off because what I want to look in the bowl to see if there's any gunked up gas, which if you could smell what I could smell right now, I know you can't on the video, but you would know, you would believe that this thing is just gunked up because it smells like foul gas, pretty bad. Anyway, this is fairly easy the way that these screws are coming out, which is kind of surprising because I did have problems getting the throttle screw out, and that's one of the things I didn't show. But I had to take, I don't know if you can see, but I had to take a Dremel, cut it down the middle, and make it more into a flathead. The old trick to take out those Phillips heads to get a little worn. So yeah, here we go. This is the last one, hopefully. Maybe not. Sure looks like it. Now let's see what we got in here. It actually isn't as bad as, I mean, again, I can smell it pretty bad, but it isn't as bad as I thought, which is good news. Yeah, but no, this is all coated. Oh yeah, this is all sticky. I don't know if you can see that. It's bad. What is without a doubt happening is this is locked up to a certain extent, and the valve here that allows the gas in is not allowing the gas in. So I need to get a tool from behind the camera, take that out, I believe. He comes in handy. It's actually a hammer as well as anything else. I tell you what I'm gonna have to do is, I have carb cleaner, but I'm going to put a little Croil on there, on this, because it is pretty well stuck. Oh, no, there we go, got it. Nothing like forcing it a little bit. Should have brought something to put these parts in, but Top of a paint can, spray can will do in a pinch here. So now take this out. Unless there's something else holding it, which can't see anything. Oh, okay. It's the valve is stuck. That's why it's not coming out, because this is just stuck. The fact that this is plastic doesn't make me feel better. I'm going to get another tool behind here. Nice little flathead screwdriver. Should just pop out, but it is just gunked up bad. You see it's a lot looser than it was. I said it before, it's been a few hours since I've been outside. I'll say it again, something my dad taught me. Never force anything. And I feel like if I start using too many of these tools, I might start to force something that I don't want to force. And I certainly don't want to break anything. So what I will do right now, I am going to put some carb cleaner right in there, some in there, and then I'll turn the video back on when I have the carb cleaner, when these things release. Well, another day, another shirt, and I'm ready to tackle this even more now. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start out by shooting a little bit of carb cleaner in here to certainly clean the bottom of the bowl as much as I possibly can, but I also have some parts in there. So I'm going to let those soak for a minute. But the real challenge and the real issue right now with this carburetor has to do with the needle. And it is too corroded to even go into the seat it's supposed to go into. It's because the needle itself is pretty corroded, and so is the inside of where it seats into. So what I'm going to do, because I'm cheap and I don't have a rebuild kit, and I'm also I want to get this thing done, so I'm not going to wait around for one of those. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the needle down with a piece of wood so I don't damage that. I'm not going to put that in a vise or have it in a vice grip or anything like that. And use a Dremel with a brass fitting. And I don't want to be too aggressive with this. I'm not going to put this to the highest setting. Just something a little bit, again, not aggressive. And you got to remember another thing too. There's a rubber fitting on the end of this, so you don't want to do anything too aggressive with the bristles here. You don't want to do anything too aggressive with the cleaning, with the cleaning solution. You have to be gentle with this. So again, let's see how this side comes out. All right, with a little bit of cleaning, this thing came out fantastic. So what I plan on doing to attack this is put a little bit of carb cleaner in there, and then use another brass fitting for the Dremel, but do it by hand. That's kind of the way I want to do this. Again, everything is so delicate in this carburetor. You just don't want to use too much power. You don't want to force anything, as my dad used to say. Just be gentle. And let's see. Yeah, look at that. It actually fits now, and it works as needed. Okay, we're at a place now that is nice and clean, and the needle valve fits in there perfect, moves freely. I did blow in here. I'll try it right now. So you can kind of tell, maybe you can hear that it's seating. So that's what I needed. It's going to stop the gas once the valve is moved to the position it needs to be in. So what I'm going to do now is go through and clean some of these flanges, whether I use this Dremel on that particular area. I'm not going to use it here because there is a rubber gasket. When I was even shooting the carburetor cleaner in, I had to be careful to make sure that I hit it. I don't want to hit any rubber. But as you can tell, by soaking the jets and whatnot, that they came very clean. So what I'm going to do now, I got an old sock. I'll take anything. I mean, this is how cheap I am, right? I got this old sock to help me clean the rest of the carburetor. Here's a tip for my one-handed friends out there. If you have a sock that you want to clean with, put it on. Put it on your stump, just like you would before you put your socket on if you wear a prosthetic. And now it makes it so easy to clean. I mean, look how easy that is to clean. That is coming clean. Look, I'm not even protecting my hand, which I probably should be, right? But that's just a tip to my one-handed friends. That's the way I clean. I'll clean this whole thing pretty much. And anywhere I can get into the crevices and anywhere I can get to it, I will clean with this. So, tip, if you got a sock, you're going to clean with it. Put it on your stump and clean with it. Well, here is the carburetor right before I'm ready to put it back in. All the parts are pretty clean. I'm very happy with the way they came out. One thing I want to point out though is the float right there. I only cleaned half of it just to kind of give you an idea how bad it was. It was really in bad shape. But everything came out pretty clean, and you know, unfortunately you don't know how well you did on cleaning this carb until you put it back in all the way and give it a shot to fire up. So we'll see what happens. As I finish up the installation of the carburetor, I make sure I clean everything that I put back in. And this is where I want to point out what others would think of as a disadvantage. Hey, it's actually an advantage. Case in point, I want to clean this guy right here before I put it in. So there's actually easy ways for me to do that. I can hold this very easily and clean it. I actually think I can hold this easier than a two-handed person can because it's got all these little areas where I can hold it. So think of things not only as a disadvantage, but an advantage. Now that I got the carburetor all back together, it's time to put it back into the quad. And I can tell you right now, am I going to struggle? Probably. Am I going to get it in? Definitely. I don't care how long it takes. I'm going to do it single-handedly. That's the way people like us have to go. We just have to keep fighting, keep moving, keep pushing forward. We can do this. It might take us longer, but we still get the satisfaction of getting this done once it's done. So the first thing I'm going to do is the throttle. Put the cable back in and feed this nut back in. That actually didn't go too badly for me. Okay. You have to pull this back and then get this little set pin in here. And for me, I don't know how well you're going to see it. I'll try to be good and have people look at this as well. But for me, I have to do like two different things with one hand. But that's okay. I'll get it done. I will get it done. Again, it just may take longer, but who cares? That's what life is sometimes. Got it. Look at that. So let's put this. Oh, that's really good to come out. That's a 10 mil nut right here. So let's get this in. This is a little too loose right now, so I am going to back it out a little bit. I'm going to back this out, tighten that up. Yeah, looks pretty good. So now I'll tighten this. But it's definitely all the way closed. So the throttle is not open. It's not open even a little bit. It's huge. So 10 mil. Tighten this. Perfect. Next, you got to put the dust cover on, and I got a new screw because the one that was on here I had to use the Dremel. It stripped. It was a Phillips head. It stripped. At least started to strip. So I took a Dremel and made it a flathead. I think everyone knows that trick. So I have so many different. I'm one of those people, like I'm sure a lot of you out there, pretty much collect all the nuts and bolts I possibly can and save them just in case. And in this particular case, I definitely needed it. So that dust cover is now on. This new screw is in. Maybe if people have seen some of my older videos, this is the way I hold a Phillips head or any screwdriver. Also, I have the right screw here, right? This is the way I hold it. Goes right in. Perfect. You don't have to over tighten this, that's for sure. There you go. Throttle is in. Next, I'm going to do the choke. I'm also going to start to feed these down to where they need to be so I can get to the choke a little easier. I did clean the area within where the choke seats in here, and I also cleaned the plunger itself, the choke plunger itself. So, you know, this one may prove to be a little bit more difficult, but it doesn't matter. Just do it. This is plastic, so this particular fitting is plastic, so you want to be careful with it. You don't want to strip it. Seems to, yeah, having this sit this way made this fit perfect. I'm even able to do it by hand to a certain extent. One thing I didn't change, I didn't tackle. I only really took the bowl off and cleaned it because that was the only problem. I hope. We'll see what happens when I start it. But I did not change this. This is some kind of sensor, and it's already adjusted. So I am not going to mess with that. I just needed to kind of delve into the area where I think the carburetor was having its problems, which it definitely was. There's no question. This was the float bowl. So now let's get this in here. I had some I cleaned this whole area. Whenever you have these things off, just clean. I may have said this before, because I'm doing this over a few different days. It used to drive me crazy on wheeler dealers in the earlier ones when Ed would put the dirtiest parts back on a car. If you got it out, just take a couple seconds and put some elbow grease into it and clean it up. I mean, it's going to look so much better. That's the time to do it. So this is the electrical connection that went out here. I'm not sure if it went out here. I can look at that on the other side. But now I'm just gonna pop this back in. Oh, sure I am. How we get the stump in. There we go. It's in. Perfect. Right where it needs to be too. To the naked eye, at least. I want to make sure I have access to the hose clamps. I'm going to leave those loose for now because I need to put the air cleaner back on, air cleaner box. And this also comes out this side. If I go on that side right now to do it, it goes right onto the starter. It's an 8 mil. Goes right somewhere in here. I can't see that side right now. I'm trying to be camera friendly, which is not helping me put this together. So what I'm going to do right now is put together the things that I need to be on that side because I'll be blocking you. And here's a perfect example of something that is right now out of the quad that just take advantage of it being out and clean it up. And here is the after for the air cleaner. Okay, now it's time to put the air cleaner box back in. And I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is going to be a little bit of a struggle. It certainly was getting it out. So let's take a look here. I don't know if it's just going to pop in. I mean, it's nice that the sun that's been hitting this makes it a little bit more pliable. But I just have this feeling it's going to be harder than what I'm hoping for. But at the end of the day, it's got to go in. Yes. Watch out for my only fingers right there. Okay, now this needs to feed into that, and then this actually bolts down. So, now, pleasantly surprised that was a little easier to put in, and it does take two 10 mil bolts to bolt this in. But it also is going to require me to hold this back while putting this in. And with one hand, you'd think it'd be a challenge. It really isn't though. Because I'm able to get my stump in here, move it around to where it needs to go, line that up pretty well, if not perfectly, and just use my extension to get that thing started. And there we go. Here is a real challenge I have since I have one hand, and I'm going to show you how I get over it, or through it, I should say. So if I go to try to tighten this hose clamp, the hose clamp, it's so loose it just moves, and I can't get my hand in there. Well, I don't even have a hand, but I can't get my fingers in there, if I had those, to hold it. So what do? Well, what I do is I take, in this case, whatever I have around. This one happens to be a Phillips head. Usually I'd probably try to do a flat head, but put this in the position I want it to be in, and then, which it just fell down again, but look for a place where I can put some pressure on the clamp itself, and then pull back with my stump. So that should hold it enough for me to at least start to tighten it, and yeah, definitely, and maybe even more than start to tighten it. It's now tight. So those are the things I do. Try to get something on one end of the clamp to hold it, put some pressure on it so it doesn't move, it doesn't need a lot of pressure. And another thing I always do, I know it has a Phillips head on it, but I always try to use like the hex head or the socket, because it's just, I don't want to strip anything. So that's my trick to get around holding a hose clamp, really, with no hands. Okay, the second to last step, or the last step before you put new gas in, is getting the old gas out. So let's do that right now. As you can remember earlier, I did plug this up, the fuel line, I plugged it. See, it would have leaked without the plug. And now I'll just turn this on. Okay, the moment of truth. As you can see, I put some gas in it. You can tell by the mess I made. I made a mess putting it in. There wasn't a lot of gas left, so I'm very fortunate about that. And I also didn't put a lot of gas in it, because if I have to take this thing apart, I don't want to sit there. I don't want to have a full tank of gas. This might take a second to fire up, if it's going to fire up at all. And the reason why is because everything's dry here pretty much. The bulb was dry, and maybe by this, actually I haven't even turned on the gas yet. I'm going to pop this to the up, which is reserve, which is the only gas it's going to get. Now maybe there's some gas in the bowl. There wasn't going to be any earlier, but let's give it a shot. It's in neutral. I'm not going to choke it initially. Gonna run. More of a choke to keep it going. Success. Sounds great. Again, this isn't so much of a video about a 2003 Honda Rincon and what you can do to the carburetor to clean it up. It's as much about that as it's even more about not worrying about what you have. Challenge yourself. Do it. If you want to work on a quad or a motorcycle, do it. Have fun. It may take longer. You might need extra tools. You might need a vice grip. It doesn't matter. Get out and do it and challenge yourself and believe in yourself. Thank you for watching. If you like this, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, please.